Hello friends, I welcome you again to this channel. Friends, in this video, we are going to discuss Samuel Richardson and his contribution to English novel and English literature. Friends, in our previous video, we discussed the contribution of Richard Still and Joseph Addison. 18th century. In fact, if you examine the history of English literature, then 18th century is known as the age of prose. Friends, prose literature developed by leaps and bounds during the 18th century. Richard Still and Joseph Addison, by publication of their magazines, The Tatler and The Spectator, they had given immense contribution to develop a new genre called the periodical essays in the beginning of the 18th century. So friends, if you examine the whole history of English literature and if you come to the 18th century, then we find that the first half of the 18th century is devoted to the development of the periodical essays. And if you come to the second half of the 18th century, it was during this second half of the 18th century that you find that novel as a genre, starts becoming popular, starts gaining its popularity. And the credit goes to Samuel Richardson, who first published his novel Pamela in 1740. And Pamela is considered as the first novel of English literature. Though there are some debates, there are some controversies whether we call it the first novel or not. But in fact, nobody can deny the fact that Samuel Richardson has contributed, greatly to the development of this genre called English fiction, English novel. Samuel Richardson, who was born in 1689 and died in 1761, is known for his 3 epistolary novels. Epistolary novels means the novels which are published in series, which are published in episodes. That's why they are known as epistolary novels. Samuel Richardson in his lifetime has written 3 important novels, as you can see on the screen. Number 1, Pamela. This novel is also given another title called Virtue Rewarded, and that was published in 1740. His second novel, Clarissa, is also known with another title, The History of a Young Lady, and that was published in 1748. And his third and last novel is The History of Sir Charles Grandison. In fact, Richardson's Pamela, his first novel, is often credited with being the first English novel. Although, the validity of this claim depends on the definition of the term novel. How you define the term novel depends, whether we can call Pamela as the first novel or not. But in fact, the seeds of novel, the roots of novel lie back during the 16th and 17th century. During the Elizabethan Age also, prose was written here and there by some writers. During 17th century, the writers like Aphra Behn, the writers like John Bunyan, they already had settled a route for the development of English novel and English prose. John Bunyan wrote The Pilgrim's Progress, and which is considered as the fantastic allegorical prose. You can see that these were some of the roots or seeds for the development of English novels. However, you may undoubtedly say that Richardson was quite innovative in his concentration on a single action. Whether we call him the father of English essay, father of English novel, that is another thing, but his contribution as far as the development of novel is concerned is indeed very great and immense. Let's see Richardson as a novelist. Samuel Richardson was the first of the great novelists of the 18th century. He was a spokesman, he was a mouthpiece of his times, and he imparted a new tone and touch to English novels. English fiction or English novel actually, it evolved from newspapers to then character essays and then to a novel in the hands of Samuel Richardson. In the beginning of the 18th century, prose was written in the form of periodical essays. Then these periodical essays were given a new shape and form called character essays, right? And these character essays gave birth to English novel in the second half of the 18th century. Samuel Richardson, without caring for the plot of his novels, he went on emphasizing the morality, virtue, sensibility, and sentiments of human life, of human nature. Through his three magnum opus, his three masterpieces, Richardson carved a special niche for himself in the annals of English literature. His three masterpieces, as I just now told you, are Pamela, Clarissa, and Sir Charles Grandison. Let's discuss about the kind of plot construction that we find in Richardson's novels. He drew his plots from the middle class. His focus was on the average people, on the middle class people. He discarded the royal class and focused on the issues of the common man and women. And this was, friends, this was the demand of the time. Because the common man of the 18th century, they did not want to read about the life of the aristocratic people. Okay, they had their own problems and they wanted to read about their own lives. And as per the demand, Samuel Richardson took very much care in dealing with his plot construction, in dealing with his stories in all his three novels. In all his stories, we do not find gorgeous places or no adventures in the sea are presented. Even no thrilling castles are found in his novels, because that was a fashion of the 16th century or 17th century literature. Thrilling castles, romanticism, adventures, heroism, all such things are discarded, are avoided by Samuel Richardson in his novels. In fact, Richardson brushed away this romanticism and brought the novel to the level of realism. His novels are down to earth novels. His characters are realistic characters. The problems which are presented and discussed by him are the day-to-day common problems of the common man and women. However, we may accept that in his plot construction there is a lack of coherence and unity. But Dr. Samuel Johnson has rightly remarked about the plot construction of Samuel Richardson. He says, I quote, "If you were to read Richardson for the story, you would hang yourself." Means you will not be happy, you will be disappointed if you were to read Richardson for the story, but you must read him for the sentiments, right? So as far as the sentiments in his novel are concerned, we feel delighted to see his greatness as a novelist. So to begin with, let's see, this is another important characteristic of Richardson's novels, sentimental notes that we find in his novel. Richardson earned enormous popularity as a novelist not because of his stories and plots. He earned his popularity, his name and fame because of the touching sentiments as presented by him in all his three novels. Raleigh, one of the important critics of English novels, he has also commented, I quote, "It was by his sentiments that gained an immediate and enduring popularity and became the founder of the school of novelists." So Raleigh is also of the view that the sentiments which are presented in his novels make him a great novelist. Richardson has concentrated on the feminine nature, the feminine sentiments of women, the problems of women, and he has given voice to the problems of women successfully, artistically in his novels. So you can say this feminine sentiments is the heart and soul of Richardson's novels. Another important characteristic that you find in his novels is morality. The word on which Richardson most valued himself and which was applauded highly by his contemporaries is morality. He emphasizes on the importance of virtue in human life. He also taught all his generations how to live and how to die well. It is because of this attachment of virtue that Richardson became the favorite family author, family novelist of the 18th century people. Dr. Samuel Johnson has also commented in this manner. He writes, I quote, "He has enlarged the knowledge of human nature and taught the patience to move at the command of virtue." So virtue and morality, these are the focal points that we can see in his novels. Another important characteristic of his novel, a very, very important thing to note about his novel, is his style, his allegorical method of presentation. Allegory means a kind of a parallel story which are going on as far as the meaning of the novel is concerned. Allegory means one character, the characters who are presented in the novel, they represent some virtues or some vices. Richardson kept up this allegorical method, which was earlier introduced by John Bunyan in his Pilgrim's Progress. John Bunyan wrote the Pilgrim's Progress, which is a prose creation of the 17th century. in which you find this allegorical method of writing novels. And Richardson has followed this style. He has imitated this style of presenting his characters and story in an allegorical style. In Richardson's novels, all characters are actually the representations of some virtues or some vices. Pamela, say for example, Pamela, his character of his first novel, represents the virtue chastity in the first part of the novel. But if you move ahead in the second part of the novel, later part of the novel, the same character, Pamela, represents the virtue called prudence. Okay, so each and every character in his novels, they stand for some virtues, or sometimes they stand for some vices. Not only this, in his another novel there is a character called Sir Charles Grandison. This character represents the quality or the virtue of magnificence. In the field of characterization also, Richardson made a very distinct contribution. No doubt, Daniel Defoe and Jonathan Swift, they were better novelists in the matter of art of characterization, but it was, you can say, it was left to Samuel Richardson to build the characters slowly and gradually, touch by touch, line by line. Such gradual development of characters is, beautifully done, artistically done by Richardson in all his three novels. His main contribution to English novel is the presentation of feminine heart, of feminine characters. Compton Rickett also remarked, I quote, Richardson is not only our first novelist of character, but also our first novelist of feminine character. So Richardson's focus, you can say, as far as the art of characterization is concerned, his main focus is on the feminine nature, on the feminine characters. At the end, let's see how Richardson has influenced the other important writers, other important novelists, other important prose writers of English literature. Richardson was in fact a source of inspiration for a host of writers, not only in England but all across Europe. Without his influence, we could never have this fantastic novel, Tristram Shandy, which was written by Lawrence Sterne. This Tristram Shandy, which is a very unorthodox kind of a novel, is also influenced by Richardson's novels. So Lawrence Sterne was influenced by Richardson, you can say. Not only this, without his influence, we could never have Joseph Andrews. Joseph Andrews is also influenced by him. Fanny Burney or Jane Austen and many other such writers are also influenced by the art of Richardson. Not only this, in France, Rousseau, and in Germany, Goethe, they were also highly indebted to Richardson's sentimentality, sentiments, feminine characters as presented by him in his novels. So, all in all, we may say that Richardson is an important foundation of English novels during the 18th century. Friends, here we come to this presentation. If you have any doubts or queries, you can write your questions in the comment section of this channel. If you really like this video, please like, share and subscribe this channel. Thank you very much.